I would hope in Washington that we need to get our SHIT together and balance this budget before we hand off our grandkids a boatload of debt that they aren't able to pay.
He actually said the government shutdown could last all of Q4.
It's scary. And then if they don't get paid, they don't spend money in the economy and all that. Like the government employs enough people to cause its own recession with a government shutdown. I think UAW is the important one because I think it sets a precedent.
But I think it's going to smack a couple of companies pretty hard. Folks, I think we have 3 scary headlines right in front of us. I want to talk about all 3 of them with Taylor, figure out what's most important, least important, what's nonsense, if any of them. Taylor, you ready for this?
I'm ready. I think I know what's coming, but I'm not sure I know everyone that's coming. Let's do this.
So let's talk about the UAW strike. Let's talk about student debt repayment starting October 1st. And for fun, we'll throw in a government shutdown on October 1st.
Why not?
Which of these 3 are you tracking? You think is most impactful? What is nonsense? What do you got? Which of those 3?
I mean, I hate to say it because it's the big one that is most important that needs to be dealt with at some point. But I diminished the government one to the lowest level of importance. As crazy as it is to say our whole government could be shut down, I think likely it gets kicked down the line at the 11th hour, just like the last one, just like everyone before it has done. And at some point, though, there is this realization, I would hope in Washington, that we need to get our SHIT together and balance this budget before we hand off our grandkids a boatload of debt that they aren't able to pay.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's an economist named Mark Zandi. I think he's at Moody's Analytics. If he's not, I apologize. But Mark Zandi,
Okay.
He actually said the government shutdown could last all of Q4. That would be a record on record. I think the largest government shutdown to date was 54 days. He's talking about a potential 90-day government shutdown. That would be a problem.
We'll see who Aunt Jalen, kooky Aunt Jalen, Aunt Janet Yellen. I was just going Jalen.
Jalen, like, who's that?
We'll see who her favorite kids are because all of a sudden she's going to start making some decisions as the head of the Treasury. If we don't get a progression higher in that debt limit, all of a sudden she's going to be able to say, okay, we have to pay them. We're not paying them.
Well, in a government shutdown, there's a lot of people that simply don't get paid. Right?
It's scary. And then if they don't get paid, they don't spend money in the economy and all that. Like the government employs enough people to cause its own recession with a government shutdown.
Now, in fairness, if history serves, they will eventually get paid, but they won't be paid. Right. They'll be back.
Correct. But the stopgap is where,
yeah.
I mean, you think about this and granted, like this is an extreme example, but like COVID, that was like they had to stop gap and pay people when they shut the economy down. Now they're going to shut the government portion of the economy down. And like that interim period, they're not handing out stimulus checks because they're not able to at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. So government shutdown's kind of the least you think it's going to be kick the can, nonsense at the 11th hour. Given history, it's hard to disagree. I'm going to come out and say they're going to shut it down. They're going to shut it down. Oh yeah.
I hate to say it because I don't want that. Obviously, for all the implications that come along with it. But at what point do we look at ourselves as adults and say, we got to do it at some point?
Yeah, stop spending all this money. The fact that we still have $2 trillion coming into the economy from government stimulus is wild to think about. Okay, so that's government shutdown off the table. Now you got UAW strike, student loans.
I think UAW is the important one because I think it sets a precedent for all workers, and we talked about this in some earlier episodes, all workers that haven't been paid to keep up with profit margins expanding, executive pays, etc. They're out to get theirs for the past 10 years right now. They said, hey, you guys have screwed us for 10 straight years, whatever. Yeah, 40 years, whatever it is. We haven't kept up on a real wage basis, and we are going out to get ours right now, and we are going to disrupt as much as we can disrupt in the short term in order to get there. And car prices, I don't know if you've been paying attention, are already exorbitantly high. $48,000 the average new car costs over that.
Wow. Yeah, I think UAW is the most important. I do think it's a precedent, and I actually think it's net positive long term. I do think labor, and again, I'm on record saying that labor is going to get theirs. That's what this decade, certainly the next 5 years, will be about. But it's a messy, it's a non-elegant process that I think the UAW, and maybe it started with UPS and some of the pilots. I mean, UAW is not first, right? UPS drivers, what did they say? They make 170 grand a year, all in.
Yep. Benefits included, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the
Pilots
end of the
got
contract, right? Yeah.
pilots got theirs. Flight attendants are getting theirs, right? I think
writer strike is still
writers,
outstanding.
yeah, like over 100 days or something. So good for labor. Go get it. I think you have been mistreated. I think stockholders were getting disproportionately returned. I think executives were getting ungodly incentives.
Yeah, and people are pissed off about the UAW and their reach right now for a 40% increase over the next 4 years or whatever it is. But they're saying, listen, this is what the executives got. That's their like trump card is like, we're just trying to be fair here and get what we drove from an output perspective that caused the executive to get that much pay.
Yeah. So again, I'm pro labor in this fight. Go get it. It's just, as somebody who steps back and looks at the economy, it will be messy, and there will be pain and ramifications that will be felt for quite a while. So that leaves student loans. So what's going on student loan repayment?
I think that this is an important thing that I've seen studies that show there isn't much actual GDP or economic, there's not much impact of it. With that said, I think it's an important contingent of the market that owes this, right?
Yes.
So largely say it's, between 22 and 35, right?
Probably.
Those are folks that are in peak spending years or going right into peak spending years. And if all of a sudden they get reined in, I think the average is $300 per month. All of a sudden they get reined in by $300. They need to start taking themselves and looking at themselves in the mirror and saying, okay, this is $300 less a month I have. Where can I cut back? And that's the reality of that would have gotten spilled into the economy in all likelihood by buying goods, services, whatever it is. And now it's not.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of areas that because I think this will be more impactful, but it will be very acute. Like I've been reading articles about, there was a Gen Z article, and this was a lady that was speaking. She's like, I'm going to have to cut back $300 on my fund budget. I'm like, yeah, I mean, yeah, you're supposed to pay back your debt. You borrowed it, right? But that fund budget's coming from somewhere. Is it bar tabs? Is it Uber Eats? Is it airline tickets, hotels? I don't know. But there's a second area that's not talked about, and that is kind of the secondhand luxury good market, the bags, the watches, the shoes, clothes. I think there's going to be a lot of people selling crap that they bought when they were flexing for social media. There are going to be a lot of people raising cash by selling Rolexes at half off or whatever it is.
You've already seen it. The Rolex index has already come down meaningfully from the Rolex is kind of that barometer of like the forward indicators, right? So it's before the stock market. The Rolex indicator is down big time because they've come in like 30% or something like that, which is just a massive number on a luxury good that has historically done a ridiculously good job of maintaining their value over time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things coming with student debt repayment. I think there are going to be some secondhand opportunities, right? Luxury goods on sale. I think you're going to see less YOLO in the stock market, right? I think there's going to be less people doing that. And I think there's going to be some pain in some discretionary items. I don't know if it's restaurants or it's hotels or it's Uber Eats. I don't know where it is, but I think it's going to smack a couple of companies pretty hard.
The biggest shock to me is, at least when I look at my friends, et cetera, and maybe, I don't know if it's social media that influences this or just me around my town, et cetera, is the amount of money people spend on eating out. And I'm not telling you what to do. It's just, I think if people had a realization of how much, and it's also like eating out at a sit down restaurant automatically costs you 20% more, even than takeout, because you're paying that tip. So like just the realization of simple things in personal finance, that understanding is like, the markup that comes along with eating food out is so darn high. And maybe I'm so conscious of this now because I'm about to have my third kid. And when I go out, it's now
Damn,
gonna be a
these kids
family
are
of
expensive.
5. And not to mention, I don't even want to go out because it's hell. And the kids are screaming and running around, embarrassing the hell out of all of us. But nonetheless, no, getting back to my point here is the amount of money spent at restaurants is shocking to me.
Yeah. Taylor, do me a favor. Where can people find you? You put out daily content.
Yeah, find us at Life Goal Investments. We're on both Instagram and on TikTok. I appreciate you, Michael.
Thank you, buddy. Take care.